Welcome to Indie 5. This time we'll go through, once again, through 5 different indie, that is more or less small or unknown indie releases. We'll start with the German band Nachtig. This is the debut album called Nachtig. It's basically a side project by a German artist, which is mostly known for his other German black metal band, Valosta Varjoon. Now, Valosta Varjoon is not an old band. I'm not exactly sure why there is a need to create such a side project which just features one man of the same band, relatively almost same age even. This one is mainly atmospheric synth, black metal with lots of keyboards and, well, kind of atmospheric riffs. As you can see, no lyrics whatsoever, just a simple booklet with images, and that's it. This roughly almost an hour full album is made of very mediocre keyboard parts, almost non-mediocre ones, and then some riffs which are kind of a very typical to this genre. Basically nothing new is here. I'm not gonna say this is a bad album, but this is once again kind of a release which comes out way too quickly after two first demos. I mean, the demo material is very much like you are going there, but you need to rehearse more, write more songs, then just experiment them which works and which not. In my opinion, this is way too much filled with those kind of a subpar keyboard parts, which are more like poor man's Burzum keyboard albums. And I must say there are way too much of those parts. Now, some of the riffs are actually better, but still not anything special. I mean, once you have heard, I don't know, a few dozen atmospheric keyboard black metal albums, then you pretty much know what this is, and this is not of the best of that style. Typical lo-fi sounding, and that's it. In my opinion, quite a mediocre release, so not cannot really recommend it to anybody else except for most enthusiastic fans of the genre. Well, anyway, next, move on. The second band for this Indie 5 comes from Chile. It's called Decem, Maleficivum, and La Fin de Satan is the name of this album. It's a debut album by this Chilean band, even though this band has been there almost 20 years. Now, mind you, they did quit, or at least put the band on hiatus for a while, so this kind of explains why this album wasn't out there previously. Actually, it was out previously on digital format, but now it's time for the actual full-length CD, and it's nicely packaged in this digipack by Ladlow label. That's once again my great attempt to do some French. So here we have this kind of a black doom kind of a band, or experimental, maybe progressive black metal band. It's kind of hard to put this into any given box because this is not exactly a band that is one of those, you know, styles that is just clearly described. This is more like borrowing elements here and there and doing some nice work with it, but also at the same time making it real challenging it to like this that it is. This reminds me in some parts, like later years, Rotting Christ, being kind of a melodic, being kind of a even mainstreamish, but then again with those kind of experimental riffs and ideas, it's also a little bit like avoiding to go into for big audience, that is. While the production is good, I think this actual songwriting is a little bit nudgy. I mean, it's kind of like you have some great ideas and you put them here in a box. Okay, let's have this riff and that riff. But when you put them together, they're like two opposite magnets, which are like, I'm not gonna put them together just like that. And to me, it sounds like this band still needs to kind of figure out, kind of hone and polish their style. While they have good ideas here and there, it's not gonna cut it to make a good album. So this is kind of hard to be recommending this one to people. It's not that easy to like as much as I like the looks and some ideas. The whole concept is not gonna fly, unfortunately. So, next up is a German band called Valosta Varjoon, which is in fact Finnish, and I find it a little bit peculiar to German band using a couple of Finnish words for their name, but then again, obviously there are bands with, I don't know, German titles, German names, and so forth. And obviously we know a lot of bands that have been using Norsk, that is Norwegian or Swedish titles for their name, even though the bands might be as far as from, say, Colombia, Spain. So I guess these are just tapping to the vein that Finnish black metal is so much celebrated and liked. So why don't you pick some Finnish name and try to sell your music through that? Well, let's not be that cynical. This one is Oberpfälzer Wald, or something like in that direction. And it's the debut album by this German band. Now, in 3 years, the band has been quite active, also with some of the side projects as well. But to be honest, Valosta Varjoon is, in my opinion, better than those side projects like Nachtig. And why so is because they have actually tapped into the Finnish gold vein of black metal. I think this reminds me of bands like Horna and Satanic Warmaster in the terms of being kind of a little bit melodic, quite melancholic, and definitely more on the atmospheric than kind of a raw and violent side. Now, the sound is actually a little bit rawish, and it's kind of a grim, which I happen to like very much. I think the guitar sound here is very, very nice because it adds this kind of a grim element to the music. Now, while the riffs are more on the atmospheric side and, like I said, a little bit melancholic and kind of a softer side, if you will, the grim sound kind of underlines the fact that this is still black metal. Now, those rawish black metal screams, shrieks, if you will, they're pretty decent, but nothing out of ordinary. Nothing like you haven't been like listening to before. And I think that's one of the kind of downsides of this album. It feels so familiar right at the beginning, right in the beginning, and I think that's not so good thing. But then again, it can be also work in the favor of the album, because once you put it in your player and you're like, hey, I think I know this band from somewhere, I think it kind of creates a bond between an album. I think it's hard to describe as such, but some will actually pick this point, because I mean, it helps to get into the album, because once it feels already like a little bit familiar. But other than that, I think this album could benefit being more versatile, because now it seems like everything is carved from the same piece of stone. Now, towards the end of the album, there are a little bit more rockish parts, like there was this kind of a funny title called Drunk and Roll. It might give you a wrong indication that it's all about fun and drinking and all that stuff, or putting you in context of bands like Tankard or those black and roll bands, but rest assured, it's still, even I say it's a little bit rocking, it's still kind of a pure black metal what this band is all about. So all in all, I think this is a pretty nice debut album, definitely worth checking out, but just don't expect too much. Then again, being a first album of the band, I think solid job, so go check it out. The next one is not exactly an indie label release, but released by Century Media. However, this band is quite unknown, called Vitriol, from United States of America, and the album is To Bathe, from the Throat of Cowardice. Bold title for a band that is very, very new. Seems the CD is already slipping out. This one is of technical death metal. Not for mainstream audience as such, I would say, yet very nicely produced overall. Well, mostly anyway. I will get to the details in a bit. But let's just say it's clear that this band is by no means DIY stuff, that is, do it yourself. So here we have the lineup, 3-man lineup with lyrics. Comes in a nice looking digipack. Nothing spectacular, I could say, but still better than your average basic jewel case release. Kind of a fancy stuff, which I guess is because of a bigger label. But the music is a little bit problematic. This is one of those bands that starts with very fast tempo, very technical kind of output with modern ways of death metal. Now, people who have been listening to bands such as Archspire Origin especially, or Dying Fetus and the like, are probably at home with this kind of album. By home I mean they are there to understand the kind of a cliches, the kind of a typical patterns, if any, in this kind of a genre. That is very, very high tempo, very skilled, detailed, and quite in your face kind of a approach with death metal. So no mid-tempo, no slow tempo kind of a rhythmics, but very much like kind of how to put it, kind of like when you are this kind of ADHD kid with just too much energy to do and you're just bouncing everywhere, and then you try to put it in the music. Now, I'm a big fan of Origin's technical approach to technical death metal, but I'm not saying everything works in the genre. I mean, it's very, very kind of delicate in the terms that once you go too much out of those boundaries, it becomes very, very boring, and you need to be extra careful with the production as well, because if it's too mushy, it becomes very kind of a burdensome to listen to. And then again, if you're way too kind of clean with it, it becomes almost kind of a sterile thing. Now, Vitriol is kind of annoying, not understanding, annoying with its bass drum sound, because it seems like everything is like just like it's almost like you know, those electric typewriters, which is just keep going too fast with your fingers. It becomes this kind of a like machine gun sound without any real bang. And I think even though these guys are really talented with their, you know, instrumental skills, you know, their musicianship, they're not able to actually create those hooks which are so important with this kind of music. I mean, if I would compare this to, for example, Nile, which is, once again, a technical death metal band also, they have lots of these hooks, these catchy parts, and diversity, which Vitriol seems to lack all. So, to me, this is very much an acquired taste album, and even for those when you're not too picky. To be honest, I think this is very, very mediocre release, which is, I guess, a rare thing to say when we operate among the more technical death metal field. So I really cannot recommend that to most people, if any, but should you happen to be one of those technical death metal maniacs, well, you should at least take a glimpse at it. The last band is a demo band, Malignament from Finland. Very, very new band that was created just in 2019. It's a two-man band from Finland, and this is their first demo called Demo 1. This was already released in late October as a digital files in Bandcamp. So this is basically a 2-track demo, CDR demo of that release. So you can see here, very, very do-it-yourself kind of a thing. Just 2 tracks, barely 11 minutes or 10:58, something like that. Now, the music is melodic, fast tempo, and kind of a catchy. I must say, this reminds me of some of the works by Destroyer 666, which I just happen to like very much. The production value is very demo-like, but in a good way. It's not too polished, but it's not bad either. I must say, these guys clearly know what they're doing. But then again, they are not newcomers. They have been in the scene for quite a while, so I guess they have been planning these songs quite a bit. Maybe they're leftovers from other bands. I truly don't know. But what I hear is something that I truly like, and as such, I can recommend you to check out. There's a link in the comments or description box, so go check out it, and I hope you like it. I'm totally looking forward to see, or actually hear this band in a full-length format. So let's keep our thumbs up for some quality black metal from Finland. Thank you for watching this Indie 5. See you soon with more stuff coming your way.